the incredible record that Carlos Alcaraz could break in the final stretch of the season. The Mercian tennis player has had an extraordinary year with 8 titles, 2 of them Grand Slams. Now he faces the final part of the season with the possibility of closing a historic record. Carlos Alcaraz is very close to finishing the season as world number 1. The leadership, though yet to be confirmed, is virtually secured, but the Mercian still has several motivations that can fuel his hunger during the final tournaments of the year. After dethroning Jannik Sinner with the achievement of his second US Open, the player from El Palmar has 2 tournaments left to finish a historic season in which he has lifted 8 trophies, including Roland Garros and the US Open. The Masters 1000 in Paris-Bercy and the ATP Finals are the last events of the year and could catapult the current number 1 score to 13,740. If he wins both, Alcaraz would achieve the second highest score in the history of the format, only behind an unbeatable Djokovic in 2015, 16,585. Therefore, he has the chance to surpass Rafael Nadal's absolute record, 13,030 in 2013. This feat would make him the second tennis player in history with the best year-end ATP ranking score since this format was established, although the 2 best scores still belong to Djokovic. Likewise, beyond the possibility of rivaling the best versions of true legends of this sport, Alcaraz, at just 22 years old, could finish 2025 as the player with the highest ranking score of the last decade. The 6-time Grand Slam champion currently has 11,540 points, while the record of the last decade is held by Andy Murray with 12,410. Therefore, Carlos needs just under 900 points to once again etch his name in the history of this sport. Carlos Alcaraz's great challenge at the 6 Kings Slam, he aspires to the biggest prize in tennis history. With just 2 months left in the season and after a bloodbath of injuries and withdrawals at the Shanghai Masters, the 6 Kings Slam 2025 arrives, an exhibition tournament in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, that debuted last year and in this second edition will distribute an enormous amount of money among its participants. The tournament will take place from October 15 to 18 and will feature Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner, Novak Djokovic, Alexander Zverev, Taylor Fritz, and Stefanos Tsitsipas, the latter recently joining to replace the injured Jack Draper. Both Alcaraz and Djokovic are already qualified for the semi-finals, so the remaining players will compete for the other 2 spots this Wednesday, Taylor Fritz vs Alexander Zverev and Jannik Sinner vs Stefanos Tsitsipas. However, this tournament has sparked controversy and criticism in recent weeks, especially after comments from Sinner, Alcaraz, and others regarding the demanding calendar. Former players and figures in tennis have opposed these complaints, arguing that top players, despite the calendar pressure, still choose to compete in exhibition events instead of resting to prepare for ATP point tournaments. The reason? Global exposure. And probably the money. €5.4 million to the winner, the biggest prize in tennis history. For example, while Grand Slams and Masters 1000 events continue to break economic records year after year, the 6 Kings Slam will offer in 2025 the biggest prize ever in tennis, €5.4 million to the winner. Moreover, all 6 players receive a base payment of €1.5 million just for participating. Considering that Alcaraz is already in the semi-finals, winning just 2 matches could earn him €5.4 million. Sinner's decision after his withdrawal in Shanghai. The Italian couldn't finish his match against Griekspoor due to cramps. Jannik Sinner has made a decision. His stint in Shanghai did not go as planned, ending with an unexpected retirement in his round of 16 match against Talon Griekspoor. Conditions in China have been tough from start to finish, with very high humidity that has physically worn down all the players. In the third set, after losing the second to the Dutchman, the Italian's legs gave out. Not even the 5-hour 30-minute Roland Garros final had exhausted Jannik as much as this match did. After losing his serve, he could barely reach the bench, using his racket as a cane, an alarming image that ended with the world number 2's withdrawal. After taking a few days off to recover from the scare in Shanghai, Sinner has chosen to hire a new physiotherapist for his team, a move aimed precisely at improving his physical condition in this final stretch of the season to avoid a repeat of the incident in China, which has practically ended his chances of becoming world number 1 before the end of 2025. The chosen one is Alejandro Reznikov, an Argentine physio with great experience on the ATP Tour, having been part of the organization since 2010. This choice reflects Sinner's perfectionism, as he makes adjustments to match the level shown by Carlos Alcaraz this season, a version that has catapulted him to the top of the world rankings. The next stop is the 6 Kings Slam, held from October 15 to 18. the Italian will face Greek player Stefanos Tsitsipas in the quarterfinals, who joined the event following Jack Draper's withdrawal. It's a purely exhibition tournament, but economically, it offers astronomical sums for the players. In that sense, it's not so much of an exhibition. The event, organized in Riyadh, distributes a total of $13.5 million, guaranteeing at least $1.5 million for each player and up to $6 million for the winner. Everything will be broadcast on Netflix, yet another sign of Saudi Arabia's ambition to reach a global audience. If Sinner beats Tsitsipas, he will face Novak Djokovic in the semifinals. The legendary coach who defends Sinner after his withdrawal in Shanghai, we saw Djokovic. Patrick Mouratoglou, former coach of legends like Serena Williams, has sent a message of support to the Italian after he was forced to withdraw in the second round of the Shanghai Masters. Jannik Sinner is going through one of the most difficult moments of his season. The world number 2 has suffered serious physical problems in recent tournaments. In Shanghai, he had to retire against Talon Griekspoor due to severe cramps. Sinner left a worrying image as he exited the court leaning on his racket to avoid falling. At the Cincinnati Masters 1000, Jannik also had to withdraw from the final against Alcaraz due to a supposed virus that left him feeling unwell before and during the match. The brutal conditions in Shanghai forced the Italian to bow out early. In response to criticism suggesting Sinner quit because he was losing, Patrick Mouratoglou came to his defense. What Sinner had to endure was brutal, a classic example of playing in extreme humidity. To explain Sinner's cramps, there's only one word: humidity. Fritz had the same issue. We saw Novak Djokovic vomit twice, said the Greek coach in statements to Eurosport. Everyone says the conditions in Australia are extreme, 39 degrees is brutal. But it doesn't compare to what you sometimes experience in Asia or New York. It's not the first time Jannik has had cramps. He had them against Carlos at Roland Garros, but that time it was due to tension, not humidity, Mouratoglou concluded. Jerzy Janowicz compares Sinner and Alcaraz to the Big Three. Jerzy Janowicz, former Polish tennis player, analyzed the rivalry between Sinner and Alcaraz compared to that of Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer. Specifically, he evaluated whether the spectacle remains the same since the legendary Big Three left professional tennis. According to Janowicz, tennis has lost much of its appeal since the Spanish, Swiss, and Serbian icons stopped competing head-to-head. Tennis is more boring nowadays. It seems everyone plays the same way. The Big Three were more interesting to watch, more than Sinner and Alcaraz, even though they are very strong. Alcaraz is currently resting after withdrawing from the Shanghai Masters, where Sinner is also no longer competing. The Italian fell in the second round, forced to retire due to severe cramps. Djokovic, meanwhile, will play for a spot in the final against Polish player Valentin Vaquero. The ATP is getting tired of Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. Czech tennis player Jakub Mensik was one of those expected to break into the current two-man battle dominating the ATP rankings. But today, he admits that players are starting to give up on that idea. Even with Jannik Sinner's 3-month suspension earlier in the year, no one has managed to threaten his top 2 spot. The world number 1 title was taken by Carlos Alcaraz, who else? But both maintain such a dominant rivalry that even German player Alexander Zverev looks weak in comparison, despite being ranked number 3. In 2025, titles are practically being shared between them. If they're not facing each other in finals, it's because one of them isn't playing. And when one doesn't win, the other does. Their dominance is so overwhelming that their rivals are starting to get tired and see catching up as impossible. One of them is Jakub Mensik. The Czech player was seen early in the season as a potential challenger to them, perhaps even capable of crashing their party. But now, with the year nearing its end, he's given up on that goal, as he admitted in an interview with La Gazzetta dello Sport. Right now, Alcaraz and Sinner are the best, and then there's a big gap with the rest. We try to catch up, that's our job, but I see them as superior to us in every way. Their consistency and style of play are on another level, every shot makes a difference. In Miami, he was the big revelation after beating Novak Djokovic in the final, but pressure and injuries have since prevented him from shining much more in 2025. I really have to improve in every aspect of my tennis to grow. I can't make predictions. You can learn a lot from them in training, but facing them for the first time would help me understand how they act in every situation. I don't have expectations, but I'm willing to work hard. His first Masters 1000 title instantly drew attention from fans and the media. Now, that spotlight has faded a bit. Fans and journalists start talking about you, and your matches get much more attention. But I have no expectations for my career and I'm just focused on working hard. Winning a tournament or important matches doesn't mean you've reached the level of the best. Right now, I'm training, I see my ranking going up and my game improving. I'm happy with that. At this stage, you need to gain experience, because consistency is the key to getting there.